In this episode of The Christian Philosopher, we'll talk about how to be a wise person according to St. Thomas Aquinas. Welcome back, everyone. Scott Sullivan here from the Aquinas School of Theology and Philosophy. I've been doing a series of videos on wisdom according to St. Thomas Aquinas. In this video, I'm talking about how to become a wise person according to Aquinas' thought. This is kind of something I think we all want. Nobody wants to be unwise. We have another word for that. It's called fool, right? Nobody wants to be a fool. Wisdom is something that I think we all naturally desire. But, you know, what is it and how do we become such a kind of a person? That is the question here. And I have been using St. Thomas Aquinas as a resource because I say he's one of the wisest people who's ever lived, and so he's a good person to learn from. So what is wisdom? I talked about that in my last video. Wisdom is an analogous term. It can mean slightly different things in slightly different areas, but in general, wisdom is the virtue by which one orders and governs things for a good end. Wisdom is the virtue by which someone orders and governs things for a good end. And I said in the last video also that there are levels of wisdom, right? Aquinas says wisdom has a hierarchical structure. He gives the example of military wisdom. You got different parts that have to be organized if you have military wisdom. If you're a general, right, you organize the whole army, right? And you got, in the Middle Ages, right, you've got your horse riders, the equestrian arts, right? You got your archers, and you got your foot soldiers, right? And as the general, you got to order all those parts for a good end, the good military end, that is victory in battle. So that's the highest level in military wisdom, but there are lower levels, right? The equestrian arts themselves, horse riding and fighting with, jousting off a horse and all those things. That's an independent area of study, right? A lower level. Same thing with the archery, training the archers, training the foot soldiers, right? Those are lower levels of wisdom that kind of fall under the general's overall command, you see. So there are levels to wisdom, and the higher you go on the scale of order, the higher you go in wisdom. So the general is kind of the wisest person of all here because he governs the whole thing, you see. So there are levels of wisdom, and the highest level of wisdom is all, right, as a human being, is to not just look at the military, not just look at this area or that area. As I said in the last video, the highest level of wisdom is to know the order of everything, not just an army, but the order of everything. Know the order of the entire universe. Where does it all come from? What's it all for? You see, this is the divine order coming from the divine intellect, and Aquinas insists we can know these things. So while there are levels of wisdom, lower things and higher things, the highest thing of all, right, the highest order you could learn is the divine order of everything. This is open to human investigation. So if you want to be a really wise person, you know the highest things of all. You know the highest causes of things, where it comes from, where it goes, and the order of things. It's how it's governed. There's a lot of things that he talks about here. But this is the highest level of wisdom. Knowing these higher things so that you can structure your life accordingly. So intellectually, I know the higher things, and then practically I can structure my own life accordingly so I meet that end. So I kind of fall in line with the divine order, with my own life, you see. So this is the highest level of wisdom. Again, Aquinas says it's intellectually knowing the order of the whole universe, how it's all governed, and then practically speaking, structuring your life according to this order so that you can reach your intended end. Okay? So this is the kind of the wisdom we're talking about here. We're not talking about military wisdom. We're talking about this highest level of wisdom that Aquinas talks about. Not just wisdom in any particular field, but the kind of wisdom that covers all things. The kind of wisdom that covers all things. This is wisdom about God and the divine order of the entire universe. And again, Aquinas insists, and I think he's right, this is open to human reason. This is open to human understanding. Okay, which brings me to my next point. When we talk about God and the divine order, there are two ways for human beings to learn about this, okay, which gives us two kinds of wisdom. Okay, according to St. Thomas Aquinas, this highest level of wisdom is learning about these higher things, and it contains two categories, right? Number one, it's the one I talked about in the last video, philosophical wisdom. What reason alone, human reason alone, can tell us about all this stuff. What can human reason tell us about God, his nature, his providence, how this is all ordered, and so on? Okay, philosophical wisdom, using reason to learn about the highest causes of things in the divine order. This, as I said in the last video, this is philosophical wisdom. In particular, it is the philosophical study of metaphysics, which is using our reason to learn about being and therefore all reality. Okay, philosophical wisdom is the first main kind of wisdom. The second kind of wisdom is theological wisdom, right? What faith can tell us about all these things. What faith can tell us about the divine order, right? What we can learn about the highest cause of things through faith in what God has revealed in his special revelation through Jesus Christ, through Scripture, through the church, through his special revelation, right? So we learn about this divine order in two main ways, reason and faith. Through reason, it's philosophical wisdom, and then through faith, it's theological wisdom. Okay? It's important to understand these things, and we're going to be covering both of these in these series of videos. And so let's talk about this. If you're watching this and you're interested in these things, hey, I want to be wiser. I want to know about the divine order. You know, I want to learn what Aquinas says about these things. I want to become a wise person according to the teaching of St. Thomas Aquinas, not some fool, right? Okay, if you're watching this and you're interested about these things and you don't know how to get started, you're like, yeah, Scott, this is great, but man, you know, I don't really know where to go. Where do I go to kind of to learn about these things and at least in an easy to understand and in a sort of structured way, an ordered way, right? Okay, no problem. I'm here to help you. This is what I do. I produce a series of videos on the thought of St. Thomas Aquinas, and that's what I try to do. I try to teach his teaching, which can be hard to understand. I mean, if you're just an average dude and you pick up one of Aquinas' works, right, like the Summa Theologiae, it's not that easy, right? You don't have the background for that. So this is what I try to do. I try to produce these videos so that the average Joe can understand St. Thomas Aquinas. I try to teach his thought in blue-collar language, plain English. All right? So if you want this, if you want to learn the wisdom of St. Thomas Aquinas, then we can do it together. I will teach you what I know, and we will, through this, channel of YouTube and video medium and so on, we'll cover it. We'll go through it together. So these videos that I'm making will cover all the main areas of Aquinas' thought on these issues so that you can learn it too, okay? So how to get started? Well, first of all, you can subscribe to this channel. If you're on YouTube right now, subscribe to this channel, and that way you'll get notified anytime I release a new video. And I'll be covering a lot. This is a big project of mine. It's kind of like my life's mission, so I'm going to make a ton of these things. So if you want to kind of jump on board, boom, subscribe to the channel. You get it all for free. You can also, secondly, you can visit my website. It's scottmsullivan.com. You can opt in. You can drop your email in there, and you can be on my email list where I do, you'll be notified that way, and I do other things to my email list. So you can go there. If you want more, those are obviously all free. If you want more, I also have a paid version of my content in the Aquinas School of Theology and Philosophy. You can enroll there as well, and you can check that out on my website. But either way, you can join all this. You can participate in all these different ways to learn how to be a wise person, according to St. Thomas Aquinas.